do it. I was really kind of back and forth on whether I wanted to continue my education after my bachelor's, but really, if it's something that'll aid you in reaching your goals, whether that be short-term or long-term, it's really something that I believe anybody should do. If you want to get more of an education, even if it's not necessarily getting a degree, but even taking a few classes just to boost your own self-confidence or knowledge in a particular topic, I think self-reflection as well as self-improvement is really important, for growth long-term and short-term, and being able to really have a good footing in your career. And of course, that's not applicable for everybody, but I think it's really important to just go for your dreams, make it happen, and have that drive. If you're considering it, just do it, which is what I did.
100% do it. I know when I first started, my friends were all like, why are you doing this? Like, don't do it. Like, you're overworking here. Like, why would you do this? Like, go work first and then come back. And then again, I was like, if I go and work or go out, there's no possibility that I'm probably gonna come back to UM and continue my master's program. But I feel like it definitely challenges like the person, but not to like, beyond your limit. Especially for me, like, I think I would say like, I can be like, good with like memorizing, seeing things, and but I'm not like intelligent. And that's why at first I was like I was scared for the master's program. I was like, I don't think I'm like crazy good, because honestly, even when I first started the program, like cybersecurity, I wasn't into the tech. Like, I wasn't into technical life, and I saw all my peers, they were all like, wow, and they were like already advanced. So when I did the master's program, it was more like to challenge myself, and then also it's something good to have on your resume.
I would say do it. Make it short and simple, but I would say this is a good program. For me, it took me 10 years to figure out what I wanted to do. Like, coming from a psych background, I knew that psychology was really important. That was going to be embedded in everything I wanted to do, but I had already been practicing it somewhat in the career field I had been in college access. But I wanted a way to kind of plug that in differently. And this program allowed me to kind of figure out and fill in the gaps of the things that I didn't know I wanted to try to get to a goal at the end. So this is a really good program to be able to leverage your current skill set to get to where you're trying to go, while also being an asset in the space that you're going into. So for prospective students, definitely try us out. Talk to the faculty, talk to current students, because everyone's super warm and welcoming, and like this. The beautiful thing about UM-Flint is the fact that like we're a smaller campus, we're a hidden gem, but we're also very accomplished and then also very knowledgeable too. So if there's something specific that you want, all you have to do is ask. And there's plenty of people here who would love to help and support. So, reach out to us, talk with us, figure out what it is that you want to do. And then after you've done that, come and join us.
I would say, first of all, apply early. I applied a little late, and so it was hard for me to try and initially find a research lab. But if you're trying to do something that will require assistance, get in touch with somebody early. And the people that I did get in touch with when I was able to apply were super accommodating in terms of housing, trying to apply for scholarships, financial aid. Like I said, getting into a research lab were super accommodating, but I think it would have been easier if I applied earlier. So if you're aware that UM-Flint might be on your radar, you might want to apply as early as you think it might be on your radar, just to give yourself the time to move. I only had a week to move from west side of Michigan over to here. And so I had to pack all my stuff, drive over here, ask my parents to get time off so they can move some stuff over here. And I think if I had a month or 2 months, then I would definitely, have been able to do it on my own over a couple trips instead of being a little rushed for time. So I think the sooner you know about it, the better. So you should definitely apply sooner.
I would tell them to take advantage of what Flint has to offer, and that is be engaging in your classes. Because if you're super engaging and interactive with the professor in your classes, you're going to stand out more. There's a better chance they get that they end up liking you, and you can form a relationship with them. And then similar to that, if you have a question with the professor, feel free to stay after class. There's not that many people in your classes, so most of the time, if you want to speak to the professor, you don't even have to wait for office hours. You can most of the time just do it right after class. And that was something I initially thought was worse about UM-Flint when I was coming here, was the fact that there's such a small amount of students. But I think it's actually probably one of my favorite things about the college now, is just how much of a relationship you can build with professors.
Definitely enroll and definitely do it, because it will, especially if they're interested in that field, and especially maybe if they haven't had a lot of experience in it, but it's definitely it has helped me, just the different things that you see and what you learn in the different programs and how to look at data differently. So it has been a great program.
I would say it is risky, it is scary to leave your life behind and come here, but the risk is worth it. As long as you are willing to learn, you have an open mindset, no mediocrity, you don't feel so entitled. When you put all this aside and you come here with an open mindset, willing to learn, willing to grow, Flint's a very good place for you. You have a very close community relationship sense. Flint is a very good place to be, a very good place to grow in any angle of life that you want to go. The students are also very good to learn about what is happening beyond their environment. So I would advise them to choose Flint. I would come to Flint anytime for any program without thinking twice. Because I've built that communication, that connection with students on campus. Not only students, with faculty, with deans. One thing that strikes me, the deans too also are down to earth. I organize events that deans come to my event. So that is how connecting they want to be with their students, not only at the top level. So please apply to UM-Flint and come experience the love and the family that I've also experienced on campus.
Yeah, actually, one of my first classes I had learned, we actually did something I felt like was like real world. We had downloaded like static analysis tools to like try and like, look into codes and find like vulnerabilities. And I feel like having this hands-on is very good because I'm like this is nice. Especially at UM, we have a lot of like hands-on work, like with labs and just the teaching process. And once Ford had done like in October, it was like a cybersecurity symposium. And at that moment, I was always feeling like I'm not learning enough. I don't think I'm ready for this real world. Like it just seems like I'm so not ready at where I'm supposed to be, especially being a master's student. But when I had heard like some of the people that have been working in the field for like 25, 30 years talking about things I have learned, like acronyms, obviously cybersecurity is all about acronyms, tools like Wireshark, Cisco's, I'm like, we have used all of this at UM. So it's like, you don't know how much you learned until you go out and you listen to what people are doing, especially people that have been in the field for a long time. So I actually realized how much I learned when I attended that symposium. I was like, I've learned so much.
There's so many strengths in that program, like it's really hard to narrow down because I graduated in December with my bachelor's in molecular biology and biotechnology, and I decided to continue for my master's because I love the biology program so much. But there is like this insane sense of, I guess, like family, community inside of the program. There's a lot of like interpersonal relationships. Like they really care about you as a person, you as a student, your personal success, and supporting you in any way that they can to meet your goals. No matter, if those are short-term goals or long-term goals. And even aside from that, there's an insane amount of resources for students, not just in the master's in biology program, but for undergraduates as well. And I've taken advantage of a lot of those resources. And I will say, like, in most of the departments, in the resources I have taken advantage of, everybody is so kind and understanding, and really just overall, anybody here on the faculty or staff wants to do what they can to, support your goals and meeting those.
I'd say the greatest strength of the data science program are all of the hands-on materials, the hands-on examples of what you can do. Just as an example, yesterday we tried image processing with Google Colab using some Python libraries, and we used it to change the images from its original to black and white or blurry or negative space. Just as examples of what you can do. And that's just a tiny thing. You can also create these analysis projects, and he introduced us to this platform called Databricks, which hosted all of the data and the project that we created in our previous semester.
I feel like the professors, they're always like, I know Professor Malik is the, director of this program. And I feel like he always tries his best to choose faculty that are very, they're rich in education. Every time we have a professor, he has like a long list of like accomplishments and his studies. And, I feel like the faculty of the cybersecurity is very strong.
I would say the multidisciplinary background of like the people in the program. So I'm a psych background, and so it's super helpful for me to be able to like have a place I can apply my knowledge in the classroom. But I have people who are in there who are coming from a variety of different backgrounds, like finances, those who are coming from pharmaceuticals, those who are coming from higher ed as well. And so like we're all kind of coming in with our areas of expertise, but we're also learning from every experience that everyone else is having too. So I think that's a true strength of the program, is that like we all are going to kind of get to the goal at the end of getting that degree in digital transformation, but we're going to get the chance to see so many different ways that it can be applied, and then take all the as a peer of mine used to say, take all the meat of like all these experiences and then just leave the bones. And so we're walking away with like years of experience in multiple areas that we didn't have to actually go in ourselves. So that's phenomenal.
I think from what I've experienced so far is the class sizes. I've had a lot of more one-on-one opportunity with professors than I did in undergrad specifically. And so I'm unsure what the sizes of other programs, but specifically in biology, I'm able to talk with professors more one-on-one. I don't have to wait in line to go to their office hours. I can talk to them about exam prep, questions I had on the homework and stuff without needing to wait, or come back on a separate day or schedule a Zoom call for the weekend, because I can just go one-on-one, which is something I didn't experience entirely in undergrad. I'd normally have to wait in a line, or all of their office hours would be taken, and I'd have to go on the weekends, like I said, or schedule a Zoom call. So I think that one-on-one opportunity definitely gives you, first of all, more hands-on experience, like in the labs that I've had last semester and this semester so far, but also just a better chance to get to know your professors, ask for a letter of rec if you need it for a professional program after this, which is something I didn't get to experience as much in undergrad.
I think the greatest strength, probably what I would assume to be with our other programs too, is smaller classes are actually an advantage, because you're able to get to know your professors, you're able to create relationships with them, and so you can get unique opportunities from that. Like, for example, I was invited to this because I had a good relationship with one of my professors. And just the other day too, our professor invited our small class to a speed networking event filled with a bunch of people in the industry, and it was fantastic. I met like a bunch of people on LinkedIn, and I would love to go to more too, because it's just a great experience overall.
I guess for me, it's the variety. Like, there's been different programs. Like, I've had different classes, like data mining and database. So you get a variety of like software or programs that you can use, and how better to analyze data. And even now I'm taking data visualization, which I'm usually in accounting or budget. So for some people, like, numbers or something is a little difficult to understand, or it's a little overwhelming, but if you show a visual, sometimes that's easier for people to understand. So it's just the variety of courses that has been good for me, and it has been interesting for me.
Every day. Every day. From the beginning to, this is my last semester. So way from the beginning to now, I always learn everything new. Everything, like using some of the instruments in the lab, it was new to me. Some of the software at school to use to clone classmates, it was all new. So every time, every program I encounter, being my lab assistant job, I'm learning every day I'm learning something new. In all my programs that I've offered so far at UM-Flint, the most repetitive skill that I end up obtaining from everyone is about interpersonal relationship, teamwork. Because, as I said, my lab is we work in team, group of two, group of three, able to collaborate together to produce a presentation, and also, so based on that, you end up learning how to collaborate with people, how to communicate. And I'm from a different continent, so if I'm able to work with a US nationality person who can understand my accents, can understand each other, collaborate together to work together to bring out a perfect work output, that alone says a lot. about teamwork, about collaboration, about interpersonal relationship. And some can also be friends for life. So my teammate Emily, we worked throughout our time because we love how we were vibing between each other. We share each other food as well. Aside the class, should we go extend to share each other food? So that is how the program has taught me throughout my stay on campus. So it's not only about academics, but I'm able to have friends and also have this skills of interpersonal relationship with people as well.
My favorite aspect about it was that during the big data analytics class that I took in the previous semester, I had probably the best school group that I've had in my life, with 2 other students who really on a technical level knew what they were doing, and we each did approximately 1/3 of the work on a pretty ambitious project.
It was my first class I was taking it. It was like Cybersecurity 526, secure software development. And as soon as I started that class, I saw the requirement for master's students, and I was like, I'm not doing this. I had like texted a message to my parents. I'm like, I've died. I'm like, it was mid-breakdown. I'm like, this is crazy amount of work. Especially I was seeing my friends, like I can't be with them, and then their project requirements are so much more less, and like things they have to do. And then it was just like, no, like you can do it. And then I talked to the professor, and the professor was very encouraging. He's like, I've had you before. I know you can do it. It's not as bad as you think. And I'm glad like that. I would say that was like one of my hardest classes I took as a master's student, and it genuinely like pushed me a lot, and it just showed me how capable I was of things, even though I wasn't aware of it.
I would say that in the program, my favorite moment is kind of like actively happening. So we do have the opportunity to have courses that are together that meet in person, but also courses that are going to be online and abroad for those who are not going to specifically be in like the Flint area. And so in my class, my DTI 505 course, which is the Change Leadership course, that course has just been phenomenal from start. Like that is where we get to have a lot of interaction. Some of my courses have been asynchronous, which have been able to give me a lot of good content. But based on my background, I'm really flourishing in having the community in the class. And we're building community really quickly, which is almost a little outside of my expectation of how like attached I was to my peers and just being in the program for, a couple of weeks at this point. And we're still in the class together, and like every class is a true delight.
Probably last semester I took comparative anatomy, which I thought would just be a lecture, but the lab included a dissection. And so something that I wanted to do in undergrad but didn't have time for in terms of credits was a dissection lab. And so this one I signed up for thinking it was just lecture and lab, not knowing the lab was a dissection. And so I want to go into medicine, so it kind of worked out well. But walking on day one and they tell us we're going to dissect a snake, cat, frog, and I'm just like pigeon, turtle, and I'm just like, oh yeah, like I guess that works. But I just didn't expect that to be something going into signing up for the class that I was going to do. But so, you walk in on day one thinking it'll be a lecture, and the lab might be like, looking at pictures or something, not a physical hands-on dissection of animals that you've seen in everyday life. But it gives you an exact opportunity to study the anatomy that you got from lecture and see it like with your own 2 eyes in lab. A lot more hands-on, a lot more kind of diving into, physical aspects of an animal, as opposed to like, we're going to lecture about it and you're going to hear about it. And it was definitely one of the craziest, but also one of the coolest experiences I had. Probably one of the favorite classes I've taken so far.
So people near the name University of Michigan-Flint, and they look down on us. They're like, Flint, not compared to Ann Arbor. But I just want to say that there's nothing different between Ann Arbor and Flint. The faculty that go teach students to the program are the same faculty, the same level of education that is being employed in Ann Arbor. And the more merit about this year is that it's a smaller campus. You're able to grow, you are seen. Because you're having any difficulties, you can approach the professor or the faculty person and be willing to assist you to go in any direction or future that you want to go. So the name Flint should not dissuade people from coming here, but the Chapel of Open Mindedness is a community that we have over here, and they should come with an open mind in the sense of growth, to learn and to also meet people.
I feel like a lot of people have this misconception that U of M Ann Arbor is a much better campus than U of M-Flint, and now they may have more resources, newer buildings, better technology, whatever it may be. But I really feel like U of M-Flint would be the better campus for one reason only, and that's because of the class sizes. The class sizes are so much smaller, and that kind of goes back to one of my other answers as well, is that you're able to kind of establish relationships with professors because of that. You know, you don't have classes of 200 students. You know, your professors are actually able to learn your names. My professors even know my pets' names. So you're really able to get that sense of community here in a way that you may not be able to at U of M Ann Arbor. And now, of course, that campus is fantastic, you know, for other things. But I really think U of M-Flint sets itself apart in the fact that there's such a great sense of community and smaller class sizes and just a lot of support here.
What's nice about U of M-Flint as well is that even though like you could, if some people think that like I'm not that ready or that, you know, like advanced for the program, the faculty always helps you. Like no matter what, I feel like that's what's nice about U of M is the sense of community. You have like a one-on-one with your professor. Like the class sizes are like not that big, so it's like your professor is basically like your guys, like they'll help you, and it's like your the expectations are not as high or as difficult or unachievable people think. It's like, you know, it's challenging 100% because it's a master's program, but it's doable, very doable.
And maybe this isn't like a general misconception, it was just something with me, but just how detached it is from just humanity, I guess. It feels like, when I pictured cybersecurity coming here, I kind of pictured what people imagined back in the day coding was just sitting in a closet on your computer for like 10 hours. But one, from what I've learned from just talking to people, is even in the workplace environment, it's not even close to anything like that now. Like it's so much of it's based on human interaction. And then secondly, cybersecurity is very directly related to humans, and it's all about protecting their data, making them safe and secure, and then so just clear the misconception that it's detached from humans. You're still protecting them. It's a very important job, and it's very needed.
Number one is being Dr. Joseph Susik. So he's more like a guidance to me. So when I came in, so I changed my program. I came with a different program, public administration. Then I wanted to change to biology because I'm a science major. I have my first degree in pharmacy. So I was directed to him because my line of ambition was like more direct around his expertise. So he has been the one mentoring me what program, what subject to take in university to be able to align to what I want to do in the future. And he was patient with me because I was more like naive, don't know what I'm about. So he was able to was patient with me, directed me what to do. Even if I asked any silly questions, he responded to all my silly questions to the call. So, and I'll say him. Then the second one will be Dr. Heather Dawson. He's an amazing mother. Her level of patience is like top notch.
That's another hard question to answer. I love both of my advisors. My advisors are Dr. Chen and Dr. Susik in the biology department. And then like overall for my graduate program, Dr. Dawson is my advisor. And Dr. Chen and Dr. Susik I've known for a little bit longer, for a few years. I've taken classes with both of them. But even Dr. Dawson that I've only known for a couple of months, like she went above and beyond to really help me get into the master's program because it's something that I was so driven to do. She did everything in her power, you know, to make that happen for me. But my favorite professors, I can't narrow it down to one, but my favorite professors are Dr. Chen and Dr. Susik, of course. They're really great mentors. I couldn't ask for better mentors in my graduate studies.
Well, my favorite professor is Dr. Bizjan. He's the one who's been the teacher of nearly all of the classes I've taken. The current class I'm taking is called Deep Learning. He introduced us to Databricks, and I had probably my best ever group project. What we did was we took this database called the Darknet database from the CIT, the Canadian Institute of Cybersecurity, and we took it, split it up by data type, as in something like audio or email or P2P or so on and so forth. I made a classifier for whether it would be categorized in one of those data types, and my two other group members, they took care of the previous and next steps, which were creating or cleaning the data set and visualizing and doing analysis on the actual data set. And first we classify the data type, then we classify whether it came from the dark web. The Canadian Institute of Cybersecurity, they made this huge like CSV with a bunch of information and a bunch of different types of malicious connections from the dark web. I believe it's the only such data set so far, because every single study that we did on the same or a similar topic used either that data set or a similar one from the CIT. That's a more advanced concept for machine learning than the simple models I've been doing, so I think I'm going to be using this concept multiple times throughout my life whenever I do more projects in a similar vein.
In my opinion, Professor Tiago was my favorite professor, and like I had him when I first started school. I was planning to go for like pre-dental. Completely different. I know, completely different. And then I had one of my first coding classes, and it was like a terrible experience. I was like, I don't want to do computers. Like this is not like, this is, because first I was like pre-dental, but then I was like, no, like I want to do something technology. Like it just seems like it's spiking, it's growing. I was like, why not? And then luckily my second semester I had Professor Tiago like for the first time. And what's nice about U of M is like the class sizes are so nice. Like you get to have this one-on-one with your professor. And I remember that class was like 7 students only. So you can imagine the relationship. And I feel like Professor Tiago was always like motivating. And you know, I always came up with new ideas. I want to double major, and then I want to do this. And then he was always supporting it. And even if it wasn't his class and I had an issue with a different class, like an assignment, he would spend time with you, just helping you with this assignment that it wasn't even for his class. And even, for example, like when I had his classes, he would literally stick around the class time like 1.5 hours after, just to make sure all his students are on the same page. Like they all need help. And I was like, and especially that class used to end at like 6 p.m. So it was like already dark, and it was in the winter and it was like cold, but like he would stick around to make sure everyone is good, everyone is on track, and then like, okay, you guys are all good, that's good. So he's definitely like my favorite.
I would say I've only taken 2. So I was, I'm going to be greedy and say both of those professors are my favorite professor. Obviously, Dr. Donaldson is amazing. The way that she structures her class and she talks about it. Professor Neji, who's taught 2 classes I've taken actually, she has a really good, comfortable online distance method that helps you to feel like you know what's happening at all times in the course. She's super responsive because I emailed her a couple of times and she got back to me really quickly. But then also I feel like there's good content that's in there, and her lectures, while they are covering a lot of information, they still feel like there's a lot that's still in there. So like when you pick up her lecture, you're figuring out like you're learning things. She goes off her slides, but she adds a little bit in there too. So that's helpful to kind of feel like you're just not going through the slides. You could just skip the lecture. You're actually going to be able to get something out of it.
It was ethical hacking. And I had a good excuse to wear a suit in a while too. So it was so much fun.
What are you doing in that class then?
In ethical hacking? That class was pretty much all practical. So like currently right now what we're doing, this is for like our midterms. One thing I like about this class is it's not exam based, it's very practical based, which is another advantage I'd say with the cybersecurity program. They just don't teach you theory. A lot of the things that matter are final projects. So you're learning the skills that actually matter for a job, and that's what employers really care about. Just something they actually talked to me about at the speed networking event. They're talking about how certifications are great, but what we really want is the practical experience. But anyways, back to the ethical hacking. Like right now, you're partnered up, and you have to hack their system, and then they have to try hacking yours. Then before that, you defended your system, not completely, because you want to like let them like try getting into it, but you're supposed to harden it so it's harder to break into. And you're supposed to hack into them, and you have a certain time limit. Like yesterday, I broke into my partner's system with 30 seconds left, and that was pretty fun. That was exciting. Yeah, my favorite professor, he was Khalid Malik. After I took Cyber 101, I was like, okay, I'm pretty interested in this, but I was still having like doubts. Like For example, that summer I changed my major to psychology, changed it back. I was like, I'm just going to stick with cybersecurity. That's what I chose. Then I took his class, and that's what really got me excited about cybersecurity. Because he's the one who, first of all, made me feel like it's genuinely important. Because one of the things with cybersecurity is it's so disconnected. It feels like it's so disconnected from humans when you learn about it. But then he, through like giving examples and like videos he showed us and whatever, he made it feel more connected to like you're protecting people and how important it really is. So he made that sense of importance. Then also the way he taught just made me genuinely excited to learn more. That was like one of the classes where there's some classes where I feel like I can do online, but that class I wanted to be in the classroom every single day because he was also someone like I would talk to after the class to like ask him additional questions. So it was just a really, really good experience. And I think that's, if it weren't for that class, I may have ended up switching to something else, admittedly. That's like what really made me like, okay, I actually really, really like cybersecurity.
So Dr. Biskin has been great. Like I've had him for data mining and I have him now for data visualization. So he's been really great. Like if you have questions and he's always there to help. And if you email him, he's always quick to respond. I guess my other favorite one was Dr. Mani. I had him for database and it was just, you can tell, I guess with all the professors I've had, you can tell they like what they do, they're interested, and they're passionate about what they do, and they want to convey that to the students. So that's been good too. So those are probably two of my favorite ones.
Yes, during one of my molecular courses that I did, we had a chance to change amino acid in furin. Furin is known to be a protein that leads to cancer. So we want to find out if you're able to change this amino acid, can it prevent the falling of its structure and its function, thereby preventing cancer progression. So, and that was I did it with my project partner Emily, and through that we were able to discover an amazing result. We had so we're supposed to go through three parameters to conclude that yes, the change of the amino acid were able to indeed prevent the furin structure from forming, therefore can also avoid cancer progression. But we only passed through one of the parameters, and the other two was the opposite. So that was a bit amazing to get one being going how you aim it, and the other two going against how you want to aim it. So, and with that result, we were able to present at the student research conference that happened last year in UM-Flint. So that was one thing I did that I'm still amused about it, and I hope my other previous or the new one that comes before me can want to take out that particular amino acid project and do more extensive to see if they can really get different results or the same results of what we had.
That's really cool. Sounds like an important project.
It is. It's all about cancer. You know, cancer is still progressing. It's still been one of the leading cause of death that we have faced worldwide, not only in the US. It's everywhere. So if we can come up with something that not only drug wise, but like to be like amino acid change in the protein that causes the cancer progression, that will go a very long way in progressing life for people to stay with their family as well. So it is a very important project.
We just recently submitted a project that was interviewing change agents around our different spheres. And so my peers, we all interviewed someone who's like close to us. I interviewed one of my supervisors and then also a chief engineering officer at New Labs in Detroit. And just to hear how they navigated change was like phenomenal because it showed me what my change styles is and it was a little bit of both of theirs, but then also how much different it is. And then like the tail end quote for both of them was like, you know, it was mind-blowing because one person shared that sometimes you're put in a position where you have to make change where you're not navigating the change. And they said that their quote was that sometimes you give responsibility without authority. And how do you navigate that when you are responsible for making sure the changes, but you don't get to have like the final say? And then the other interview talked about how when you are a person who's involved with change, sometimes it feels more appropriate to like let your life be put on pause while you're making change. And he said, in reality, you need to make sure that your life is moving forward because sometimes that'll give you the motivation to get the change done. And that's something that you typically don't hear in textbooks around those two pieces, like, hey, this is how you make change happen. It's like, but when you're in that space, how are you supposed to feel? How are you supposed to navigate? And so like for that, that was really cool to have an opportunity to go out and see how it's applied and then how to review and critically analyze it in a way that's going to be helpful for the class and getting a good grade, but also in a way that's going to be able to give me some nuggets to myself to kind of impact my change style.
The most recent one was the database class, because I've never had to do anything. Like, I've used databases, but not seen the back end of it. So I think that was for me. And then we could pick our own topic. So it was something that we're interested in. So I play in a community band. So I use that as like members and instruments. And so for me, that was really interesting because I could apply it to something in my life or something that I do. And it made more, I guess, personal, and like wanted to do more just to learn how to do it. And now it's like, oh, okay, so I could set it up for like other things. So I guess that's been the project that's most been interesting for me.
Everywhere on campus. I have been everywhere on campus. Everyone knows me on campus. So I'm from a warm climate. So in the winter, I like being on the 5th floor. It's very warm. The library is not really my to-go place to go. So either that place or one of the classrooms in the 10th floor.
The MSB extension is a really fantastic place to hang out. There's, vending machines for snacks and drinks. I especially like MSB on the 3rd floor. Like, there's a couple of common areas there, and they're relatively quiet. I feel like here people really respect a sense of like relaxation and allowing people to, study or do their own thing. So yeah, the common areas on the 3rd floor in MSB are probably my favorite places to go for studying or having lunch or even studying with friends as well.
Well, MSB 400, like that, like whole level, it's always like, it's empty, you can sit and you can, I feel like MSB 3, like level 3, like level 3 is always busy, there's always so many students, so many classes. Level 4 is like more low key, it's more nice. And me and my friends, when we want to study, we always go there. It's like chill.
Being here, I really like being in the USIN. I mean, the USIN is really the heart of campus, and so that's good to be able to be around other people, but also it's a great place to attend events. So like, even if you're just coming in to like head to the library, you'll find something cool that's going on. Like, there was an event that happened a couple of weeks ago that was the motorsports event for the department. So that was phenomenal and amazing. I always try to stop by the Intercultural Center too, because that's a really nice space that feels like home. And so that's a good place to stop in. And then, the other place that people hit, the library, the gym, those are all cool places. But the USIN typically is the place I make a destination when I come.
Yeah, I go to the library a lot, both because I tend to need a lot of help from the writing center. A lot of the classes that we have are either writing requirements or just have enough essays where I might need to go talk to somebody. And so the writing center is something I've utilized a lot. So going to the library, both as well for that help, but also just because it's a quiet space. I've had headshots on campus, so I got to see a different floor. I've gotten to the writing center, that's a different floor. I've gone, studying on my own time, just looking for a quiet corner, and that's a different kind of environment from at home or at a lecture hall or, at my dorm. And so I think it's just the change of scenery. I go to the library more than probably anywhere else on campus. My
favorite place on campus, probably to study, is the library, because I used to have a huge gap between classes, like 4 hours. So I don't just get a coffee and go to the library to study. The library is really cool because it's multiple floors. Well, I'm sure you've probably, yeah. But I just love sitting like along the ledge where you can look out the huge window. It's just such a good view. You can sit like really high up. You can look down at the other floors, and then you're also just the whole wall's a window, and it's just beautiful. It's just nice to study there. And it's also quiet because it's a library.
Yeah, so overall, long term, I want to go into research. I want to do exactly what I'm doing now, but maybe involving more patients, because we only work with one cell. We work with multiple cell lines. Right now, we're only working with one cell line for our cancer research. And we're researching triple negative breast cancer, just to make that clear. But I would like to work with more patients as well, and maybe make a little bit of a more direct impact to finding therapeutic targets for triple negative breast cancer. But overall, I'm very happy, working in the research lab that I'm working in, and I feel like it's the perfect stepping stone to what I want to do in research as a career. So.
As a matter of fact, I actually work for the University of Michigan Dearborn right now as a BI analyst. So my supervisor, his name is Rick Mikulski, started out in my position and now he's the director of the IRE office, Institutional Research and Effectiveness. I feel like I could follow a similar career path.
So like some background, but like not much. So in reality, I'm a psych major. So I did psych here, graduated in 14. So it's been almost like a decade or so before I started. But since then I've worked in like various positions in the college access space. So I've almost hit like every touch point that you almost could have with a student. But then later in my career, when I, transitioned to academic advising, I started advising technical students. And so specifically with like STEM. And so over the past couple of years, like almost like 5 years at this point now, I've been working with students and I've been like hearing all the jargon and whatnot and like seeing the landscape of like where students are landing and the kind of careers they have. Like I see that there's a need for having people who have that liberal arts background to transition into the STEM. So it's a space where everybody's growing together, not that it's just kind of lopsided in one area. So I read this book called Robot Proof. And after I read Robot Proof, I'm like, oh, this is the lane that I want to be in. And when I saw DTI come up, or the Digital Transformation Program, I was like, this is it. So that's what kind of led me today. It took me a while to kind of cook on it, because like for most psych majors, like go to the psych route. And I was like, I don't think I'm going to be most happy in that area. So let me find something that I'm going to be able to do what my skill set is, but then do some other stuff too.
So I'm applying to medical school in the spring here, it comes up in May. The first one would definitely be the opportunity for letters of recommendation. Like I said, that one-on-one opportunity within the biology program definitely gives you a more kind of tailored experience to getting to know professors, getting to ask for that letter of rec, getting the hands-on experience in labs. Another specific would be like both last semester and this semester I've had hands-on labs that give me real-world experience and I can put on a CV. And one of them specifically was like last semester I took cellular molecular biology. That gave me experience with 2D, 3D cell culture, with staining cells, with Western blots and protein assays that I put on my resume, and that actually helped me land an internship for the summer. So graduation comes up in May. I'll have an internship lined up for the summer because of the hands-on experience was applicable to the lab that they're running over on the west side of Michigan. And so those exact hands-on experiences kind of prepared me for that. And then as well as giving me the opportunity, like I said, for letters of rec, which are definitely required for medical school. So getting to know professors better, as opposed to like I had an online class and I never met them. I never went to Zoom hours, that kind of thing. The class was 80 people, so they never really got to know me, which is some of the things I had in undergrad, but a lot more specified, smaller classes that helped me get to know professors better and set me up for both that application, but as well as real life job experiences, CV, experiences, things to put on a resume.
I guess it sort of fits into my job now. I work in the business and finance and in the budget office. So a lot of what I do is do campus reporting. I do budget and I have to do trends and I have to look at a lot of data like historical or current. And so it's something that's when I was looking for programs to do my master's in. When this one came up, I'm like, that fits to what I'm doing now. And maybe it's something in the future if something else comes up. But yeah, it's definitely something that more of what I'm doing now that'll help me now, but also later in the career too if I decide to change.
Honestly, I didn't anticipate exactly what tools or platforms we were going to use, but in general, how everything works, how he's shown me doesn't really surprise me because it feels like it makes sense. Everything he tells me, everything my colleagues and fellow students tell me. Because the one thing that I like to tell people who don't understand AI or machine learning at all is that at the end of the day, it's just still a computer taking in input and spitting out output based on a program that it makes. And to understand all the models, you need to understand some complicated mathematics, but I mean, that's what computers are best at, mathematics.
Because I'm in the BSMS program, I'm not as advanced as professors would think master students are. Usually master students, they graduate, they go out, they work, they come back to school. Like, it's not usually like, I don't see it a lot like, okay, you're like consecutively studying. So for me, I'm still like an undergrad, but then when I take some classes and I'm like, well, the professor is like, well, graduate students are very advanced, so like, this is what you need to do. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm not that advanced. But then I feel like with when you start doing the work, you're like, okay, it's not that bad. It's not that difficult. It's not that advanced.
I would say the thing that's most surprising is kind of like the piece that I talked about before, is that, just how much experience is coming into the classroom and how many different areas that we're coming from. And I think that also that's kind of a myth that I thought, because the program is seated in a technology or a STEM college, you would think that you have to have an extreme background in these subject areas. And while it's good to have some experience in it and feel comfortable in some of the subjects that we talked about, you don't need to be an expert, because that's what the program's going to do. It's going to give you the areas of expertise that you kind of need. And so that is something that I thought that was I was a little apprehensive about when I applied for the program. And then once I got into some courses, I realized you don't need to have a computer science background. You don't need to be an engineer. You can kind of develop those skill sets. But if you have those, you can also build on what you already have.
I think part of it was maybe also because student profiles, but the accommodations that professors allow, I think compared to undergrad, is a lot more accommodating, simply because they understand that people might be going back to school. They might have been taking a break. I took 2 gap years from my undergrad going into my master's. And I think they're more accommodating than I expected them to be in terms of excuses why you might be late to class, why you might need to miss a lecture. People have families, kids, jobs that they might be working part-time. And so for some of my online classes, people are like, oh, I've got a shift that starts at 5, class gets out at 4:50. Can I leave at 4:30 to get to my shift at 5? And professors were like, yeah, that makes sense. Sure, thanks for telling me ahead of time. Versus I think in undergrad, it was more, you're here till 4:50, you got to be here till 4:50. If you get to work late, you get to work late. But I think, they're just more understanding, more accommodating of people's life circumstances, kind of histories, backgrounds, age differences, profile differences that people might need to leave early, come late, skip lecture, have to go pick up kids, life happens. And so I think they're more understanding that life happens. And I don't know if that, I guess that did surprise me, just because I didn't expect professors to be so understanding that life happens. It's kind of just not what I think about when I think of hard, rigorous, master's programs or PhD programs, but they've been very accommodating and understanding of, even myself, I don't have a wife or kids, but I think they're very understanding when I say I've got a research lab that starts at this time. Do you mind if I leave a little bit early to attend it so that I can get there on time for that? And they're very understanding of that, which I think is surprising.
I did my undergrad a while ago, so it was just for me, okay, how am I going to get back into school, going back to classes and all that? But the way the professors are, they make it very easy, and it was a good transition for me, where it was I had been out of school for a long time, and just getting back into it, the professors are very helpful, and they're willing to work with you. And so I'm not necessarily surprised, but it was a good experience, I guess, maybe a good surprise, or kind of dreading going back, but now I'm glad I did do it.
I'd say it's really the only way I could do it while also having a job, because I work from home and I take courses online. It's kind of like having 2 classes at the same time, kind of like doing 2 projects at the same time, but anymore, and I feel like I would get overwhelmed. Since I can focus 100%, or rather 50% of my mental energy on one class, I feel like I learn everything more deeply, because I had a hard time as an undergrad because my attention was split 2 ways each 3 months. And I guess I just don't do particularly well when I feel time crunched, but I never feel time crunched with only one class, because I may have a lot of things to get done, but I have deadlines well in advance, so I think may as well do this early and learn the material now, so when he goes over it again, I'll understand it better next. Typically 2 days a week for approximately 100 minutes. Right now, Monday, Wednesday, 12:30 p.m. to 2:10 p.m. Typically, I get on a Zoom meeting, and sometimes Professor Bizjan is in his classroom. Sometimes he's just in the Zoom meeting, and he'll send out a notification to all the on-campus students for whichever one he's in.
It's been really good. Canvas is easy to use, and I did my undergrad here as well. So I don't think I think we had Blackboard then. But Canvas is great. I can see, okay, where are the assignments? What projects do I have due, and then you can also see your grade if like the professor posted. So it's just kind of, it helps to keep you on track. So it has been really good. And most of mine have been the online asynchronous, so I've just learned on your own. I have one now that is where I have to log in for class. So, but that's been nice too, because you do see other students and it's more discussion. So the online has been really good for me because I do work. So it's just something, you know, you can work into it.
Honestly, probably every day. I learned so much about like sentence structure and grammar and, you know, things that you might not think are super important, you know, in higher education, but like really brings you back to like middle school English, where you're like, you know, the structure of a sentence really matters and how you're able to convey information, and you want you know, a reader to be able to listen to you. So, you know, specifically for what I'm doing in my thesis, I want to make sure that regardless of somebody's knowledge on triple negative breast cancer or 3D cell culture, or, you know, anything that I'm working with, I want to make sure that it's, you know, readable and clear. And in lab as well, I learned something new every day. You know, we talk about a variety of different proteins and their function, and in research there's a lot of trial and tribulation, and in that you learn so much. Like in the moment it's very tumultuous, almost like can be very, I don't know, annoying sometimes when things don't work out the way that you planned it. But, you know, if you come back to it a couple days later, you realize that, you know, maybe the negative research or the result you didn't expect tells you more than, you know, what your hypothesis might have.
The aforementioned Databricks platform, I used it one day to combine what I do in my day job, which is editing SQL plus and turning it into a Python data frame. I thought, you know, I really could use SQL queries and easily turn these into graphs or otherwise manipulate the data, something like that. And that's just an example as my day-to-day job. But again, image processing or simple neural networks or other machine learning algorithms like random forest or gradient boosted forest, XGBoost, or SVM, or they can be used for things called classification, like take a data frame, predict whether one row is going to be in one of however many categories. We just started with convolutional neural networks, which are better for image processing, looking at images and classifying them.
Part of it was, I've never taken a public health class. Last semester I took epidemiology, and pretty much everything was unused to what I've learned so far in like the sciences. So a lot of it that I've learned, you know, is chemistry, biochemistry, physics kind of thing, where it's more like data, numbers, application of reactions and, you know, real life circumstances. And then going into epidemiology and public health, it was more like, how can you take the past and apply it to potential future? And a good example of that was COVID, where she was understanding how, or the professor was explaining how we take what we knew and we tried to apply it and it didn't work out. But now we take what we know from COVID and we can apply it to a future, you know, public health outbreak. And that was very different for me in terms of understanding like a history and a location. Like we learned about different types of outbreaks in different locations, and some of them weren't specifically in Michigan, but it might have been an outbreak in Texas or an outbreak in another country or even, you know, continent. And I think that was a lot different for me as opposed to like, you get numbers, you memorize numbers, you apply it to a formula, you get an answer. And so it was not necessarily harder to learn, but it was definitely different in terms of how my brain's been wired from kind of undergrad and where my strong suits are. But it was still interesting, just in a different way. You know, it was a lot less straight up formulas and a lot more like application of history to the future, or, you know, different countries' applications of how they applied it to how we could apply it.
It goes back to like that leadership course that I'm in right now, which is the DTI 505 course. It's just like the conversation with our peers. Like a couple of weeks ago, we had conversation around some things that are going on with mergers, and so how those are applying. So we talked about how Norwegian itself is buying up a couple of different companies, but we talked about like, how does that happen? What goes on behind the scenes? And then also how to track trends of like how these things manifest. How do people feel about that? And so we're still seeing how that one's going to play out in real time, but we're also being able to critically look at like, what were the trends? How do people perceive the previous changes that have happened with this group? And so I think that was super cool, because it actually shows us how to sit down and think about how change happens in an effective way, and then also how to use the patterns to map out where change is, and actually meet people when the change gets to that point. And then also talk about people, how they are on board and how their participation is in change. And so like that right there was like when the light came on, like multiple light bulbs came on at that point. I was like, oh, this makes so much sense, and it directly correlates to kind of some of the work that I've had too.
I will say, if you're really into machine learning or artificial intelligence and you really want to know the mechanics of it, then this is a really comprehensive master's program, and it will bear fruit if you really pay attention and do the work, even if you don't understand the concepts at first, because I myself don't all the time. I need to stare at it for days at a time to understand certain concepts sometimes, but do the work and you'll eventually really get the mechanics of how machine learning works. And like I said, it feels huge and intimidating. It feels like an enormous, incomprehensible subject, but at the end of the day, it's just computers taking in input and spitting out output based on mathematics.
Well, I'm a BSMS student, and when I was in my second year of, I was a sophomore at UM, I remember they were introducing the program newly. And I really didn't think of it much. I was like, well, it sounds nice, but I don't know if I want to do it, because it's definitely a dedication. But it's a very good bonus because you're basically getting 1 year off. Like, you're combining your first year of master's with your last year of your undergrad. And like, once you graduate undergrad, you only have 1 year instead of 2 years. Actually, funny enough, I got married, and then he's like, do you want to move? I was like, I'm not leaving this program until I graduate. So we were doing like long distance for like 7 months, just because I was like, I want to finish the program at UM. So I think that's dedication for me, like not moving to continue the program. And I just love the faculty here. I feel like they're very supportive and they genuinely care. You go to some universities, like it's like, okay, whatever, like you do your work. But I feel like professors at this university, they really care and they like look for you to thrive.
So for me, I really am taken into like the study of like what Joseph A. Owen calls humanics. And so that looks at how to bring liberal arts into technology, or bring technology closer to liberal arts. And I think that that's a passion of mine. And so I really want to be able to go in and work with people to kind of get them a pathway into technology, because I think that that's the biggest barrier. Like, some people just can't see themselves in the field, and like the field is kind of building itself around everything that we are at this point as a society. So there's a space for everybody, but figuring out what your space is, I think that that's going to be critical. And like, there's going to need to be some stewards who are going to be able to get people on. And I think the digital transformation program is kind of set up to do that in a variety of different ways. Like, there's 3 different tracks. So like, there's a track for like quality and smart manufacturing. There's one for data, and then there's another one, I think, for finance. And so those are key areas that people are going to want to know how to do more, working with technology, how to change their organizations. But also that's going to get a lot of people an opportunity to kind of jump into the system and find a place that they can flow in. So I think that for me, I'm finding that my space is kind of wanting to do like, that facilitation. I'm learning how to do that. But also it's giving me the opportunity to kind of not know what I want to do and to pick up a lot of other skills. And so I'm super excited to be in the program, but also I'm comfortable in knowing that I don't know everything I need to know, and I'm going to get there, and that's perfectly fine.
When do you graduate? I'm just curious.
The plan, I think, is fall 2027, or at least that's my personal plan, but by winter 2028 at least. I think like with some of the new programs in CIT, the issue is the strength. It's the fact that like it's something brand new that people are going to love, but like people just don't know how to get to it. So with this program, I feel like this is like the entry point. Like, if you are looking for a space that you want to be a part of the conversation, you want to be able to contribute, because that's exactly what I'm using it for, then this is the time to kind of jump in, especially when things are new, because people don't know what they don't know. They'll know in about 10 years, or they'll know something. But if you want to be at the ground level, if you want to be a pioneer, like, you want to join into a program that's relatively new that a lot of people don't know a lot about, because you're going to have the ability to grow, learn information, and then also to kind of define what that program is going to be too. And like, you don't get to do that too many times in a lifetime. And so if people want to do that, like, this is almost all new at this point. I mean, you got the established programs that came over that, that have been around almost since the dawn of time, but you've got the new ones where offsets and concentrations out of that. So those are super important. Those are the areas that are designed for people to jump in wherever they are. But it's just getting people to know what's going on. I think the CIT has really blossomed and grown into something that is a force on campus, or is shaping itself to be like a large force on campus. It's hard to kind of get a true vibe of what every sector of CIT is, because our program is more distance learning. But I would say that the vibe of our program is that, it's attracting people who are go-getters. And so that's really helpful because it's one of those iron sharpens iron type of deal. And so we are all making each other better. And I think that's a beautiful space. And that's a space that probably anybody who wants to grow should be in. So I think that the vibe is this is a destination. This is a place that people should try to come if they haven't already factored that in, and then figure out how to kind of grow into the profession they're trying to become, because that's exactly what we're doing in real time. And it's a space that's nurturing us and providing us an opportunity to grow. Because sometimes people say hey, you can come and grow here, and then you realize you've outgrown them really quickly. I don't feel like that's going to be the case anytime soon. I think there's going to be continual space for me to continue to grow in this program.
So I'm doing research with Dr. Chen in her breast cancer lab. That's what, like I said, last semester was in cell and molecular biology that gave me the hands-on experience of 2D, 3D cell culture, immunofluorescence, which is staining and looking at it under a microscope, as well as running some Western blots like protein assays and experiments. And I've done that last semester. I'm currently doing that this semester, and that was the experiences that got me the internship that's coming up for this summer that I'm able to put on my CV. So definitely beneficial, something I'd recommend you get in early. Like I said, the more experiences you can get, the better. And so being able to start it last semester, even though I was a non-thesis student, definitely set me up for success, both this semester as well as for the summer. Definitely applicable. It's something I want to do in medicine as well, and some of the research that I want to do in medical school. And so, like I said, getting started early is definitely the way to go. And so it did a good job preparing me for the future of what I want to do. And so I think that a lot of the kind of sense of community that UM-Flint provides is a lot more beneficial to the students themselves. Being potentially smaller, like the RAs had more events that you would be able to, meet other students at. Like I said, class size one-on-one is more applicable to hands-on experience, getting to know both students, peers, as well as professors. So I like that the kind of community itself in terms of students, but also the physical campus is smaller, more walkable, more digestible in terms of somebody coming over here for the first time. I didn't go here for undergrad, and so coming over here to a bigger city than what I was used to was more applicable, and it kind of made me feel more at home because it was more, like I said, walkable and digestible as opposed to what I was used to.
Well, I guess it comes down to two things. The first one is to set myself apart from other people, and then this is tied in with the first one, but two, just to learn more about the subject because I find it super interesting.